Okay, welcome to today's lesson. It is entitled 5-52 Standard Form of a Line. So today we're going to learn to write an equation in standard form from information. We're also going to review writing equations of horizontal and vertical lines. So write down the title and let's get started. Okay, again, we're going to be writing equations. We're not going to be solving them. We're going to just really be writing them. And so write this down, standard form of a line. This is the standard form of a line. AX plus BY equals C, and A, B, and C are real numbers. The steps when we want to write an equation of a line in standard form is first we have to find the slope. So that's the main thing, finding the slope. Sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they don't. Next, we're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form or point-slope form. I actually prefer point-slope form. So, but you can use both of these methods to write an equation in standard form. Again, we're not solving equations, we're just rewriting them in different forms. And there are three different forms. There's the slope-intercept form, there's the point-slope form, and then there's the standard form. Okay. All right, find the slope, write the equation in one of these forms, and then we're going to change the equation to standard form. So we're just rewriting the equation and moving it around. And what we're going to do is we're going to isolate the constant term. The constant term is the C. That means C needs to be alone on the right-hand side of the equation. And then we're going to make sure that the X and the Y are in the right order. And then there's two other things that you need to know, and that is that the X value, the coefficient of X cannot be negative. So the coefficient of X cannot be negative. So what I mean by that is, and I'll do it up here, if you have a negative X plus Y equals, say, -3. This is in standard form because you have an X, you have a Y, and then you have a constant on the other side of the equal sign. But X cannot be negative. So what you would do is you would change the negative to a positive X, and if you change one to the opposite sign, that means you'd have to change the Y to negative, the opposite, and you'd have to change the -3 to a +3. So you cannot allow the X to stay negative. You have to change it. The next thing you can't do is that the coefficient of X or any of X and Y cannot be, the coefficient of X and Y cannot be fractions or decimals. Cannot be fractions or decimals. So you have to clear the fractions or clear the decimals, which I can show you how to do, in order for it to be in standard form. So I'll get to that in a minute. Let's just move on to the next part of the notes, which is equations that have the same solutions are called equivalent equations. The equations that have the same solutions are called equivalent equations. So what is a solution? A solution is an ordered pair. So if two equations have the same ordered pairs, that means they are the same line. All right, let's move on. All right, this says write two equations in standard form that are equivalent to each given equation. Remember when we did this and we did fractions 1/2, and 1/2 equals 2/4, and 2/4 equals 4/8. Okay, those are naming the same amount. Well, you can do the same kind of thing to an equation. So if I have 2x minus 3y, so write that down, and I have this equation equals 7. If I multiply everything in that equation, multiply it, say, by 2. So if I do that, I get 2 times 2x is 4x, 2 times -3 is -6y, and 2 times 7 is 14. This is an equivalent, these are equivalent equations. They're the same. So same thing I can do is I can multiply it also by 3, Okay, so instead of multiplying by 2, I can multiply by 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times negative 3 is 9. 9y. And then 3 times 7 is 21. So all three of these are equivalent equations. They are multiples of each other, just like fractions naming the same amount. All right, write the next one down. It is 4x minus 12y equals 16. And in this equation, you can see that you could actually reduce all of those. They have factors. So if I divide each of these by 2, I'll get an equivalent fraction that is reduced basically by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2x. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6, so I get 6y. And 16 divided by 2 is 8. And that's an equivalent, these two are equivalent equations. Then I can keep going and I can divide by 2 again. So 2x divided by 2 is 1x. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3y. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now all three of these are equal to each other. They are equivalent fractions. And we don't use this a lot, but we'll use it later in another unit. Okay, here we have, it says, write an equation in standard form given the following information. All right, we're going to do the same thing we did yesterday in point slope form, and we're going to use point slope. You can also use the y-intercept or slope intercept, but we're going to use point slope because you know we have a point, this is our point, and we have a slope. So we're going to write an equation, and remember this is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So let's go ahead and substitute in. So I have y minus a negative 1, this is my y1. So minus a negative 1 makes plus 1. And then I have, that equals my slope, which is negative 3/2. And then I have x minus 4. Now that's point slope form, but now what we're going to do is solve for y. So I have y plus 1 equals, and then I distribute this, so I get negative 3/2 times x, and then I have to do negative 3/2 times negative 4. That will make a positive, and I'm going to do that over here. Negative 3/2 times a negative 4 over 1. If I do that, I get a negative times a negative. That makes 12. 2 times 1 is 2, so I get 6. So this ends up being plus 6. Then I can subtract 1 from both sides, and I get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 5. So my first step is to put this into point slope form. But now I want to go to standard form. So what I first want to do is I want to get rid of the fraction because I don't want any fractions in my answer because standard form doesn't have any fractions. So first I'm going to take this entire equation, and remember when we learned how to clear a fraction. If you multiply by the denominator, everything by 2, it clears our fraction. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 2y, or times y, I get 2y. And then I multiply 2 over 1 times a negative 3/2. That's what I'm doing right there. So the 2's cancel, and I have a negative 3. So I have a negative 3, don't forget your x. And then I do 2 times 5, which is 10. Now I've gotten rid of the fraction, I've cleared the fraction. Now I need to move the x, has to be over to the left. Remember, it has to be in the right order. It has to be ax plus by equals c. That means x has to be here, then y, then c. So if I add 3x to both sides, then I get 3x plus 2y equals 10. And this is standard form. And that's what we're looking for. All right, let's try another one. Okay, here it says write an equation in standard form, and all they give you is 2 points. So if all they give you is 2 points, then step number 1, what did we learn yesterday? Find slope. So you're going to find the slope. Then step 2 is you're going to put it in point slope form. And then you're going to clear any fractions. So step 3, clear fractions. Actually, you're not going to clear fractions first. Usually you solve for y first. And then you have to, and then clear fractions. And then you have to get it in the right order. So clear fractions, and then get it in the right order. So standard form. That would be step 5. Okay, so I'm just going to put order. So these are basically the steps that we're going to use. All right, so here we go. Let's find the slope. So I do -6 minus 4, 1 minus 3, so my slope is 5. Next, I'm going to use point slope form with either point. I'm going to pick this point. So I do y minus 4 equals 5 times x minus 3. Then my step 3 is I'm going to solve for y. And then I get 5x minus 15. So remember, we distribute. Then I add 4. So I end up with y equals 5x minus 11. Next, I need everything to be, I don't have any fractions, so I don't have to clear fractions, but I do need this x here, that x, to go over to the other side. And because it's positive, I can subtract it from both sides. So subtract 5x from the right, subtract 5x from the left. I end up with negative 5x plus y equals negative 11. So then, I guess the last thing I need to do is, remember my leading term, my coefficient of x cannot be negative. So I have to change that to a positive. If I change the sign of the first number, then I have to change that, and then I have to change that. And here I go and have my answer. All right, so remember, you cannot have a negative with your x. There should be no negatives with your x and no fractions. And standard form looks like that. Okay, now we're going to talk about vertical lines and horizontal lines, and you've done that before, but let's review quickly. Okay, remember this, HOI, horizontal, H stands for horizontal lines, 0 stands for the slope of a horizontal line, and y means that the equation of a line that passes through the point, whatever the y value is. And the vertical, V is for vertical, U is for undefined slope, and that's an x line, so it will be an x equals line. So, on HOIs, the equation of a line that is horizontal, the equation looks like this, y equals something. And that something right here is this number. So if I give me the horizontal line that passes through 3, negative 1, then the equation would be y equals negative 1. If I say, give me an equation of a horizontal line that goes through 4, 5, then the equation would be y equals 5. If I say, give me an equation of a horizontal line with a point that goes through 1, 0, then guess what? Y equals 0. These are the equations of those lines. That's a horizontal line that goes through those points. The same with vertical lines. A vertical line means x equals something. X equals something. So if I say the same points up here, 3, negative 1, give me the equation of a vertical line that passes through that point, you would say x equals 3, because this is the x value, that's the y value. Same with this one, 4, 5. if I say write an equation of a line, a vertical line that goes through that point, you'd say x equals 4, and that's the equation. So guess what? On the last one, 1, 0, give me an equation of a vertical line that goes through that point. It'd be x equals 1. Okay? All right, hopefully you've got it. Let's one more slide, I believe. All right, so let's you try this. So write down number 6. You have negative 2, 8. It says write an equation of a horizontal and a vertical line that passes through each point. So for number 6, remember Hoy and Bucks. Okay, so horizontal line. So the horizontal line would be, it's a y line, so y equals 8. The vertical line would be x equals negative 2. Same over here on the right. You have a point 5, 3, so write that down. Your horizontal line would be y equals 3. And your vertical line would be x equals 5. And that's it for today. That's our lesson on standard form with horizontal and vertical lines. I hope you've learned a lot. And now it's time for your homework.